I went into the office this afternoon to do some in-processing and sat in on a commander's roll call, whatever they called it, commander, I don't know, roll call. And it was with a bunch of fighter pilots, and I've always known that I'm not really a fan of fighter pilots and just their arrogant, cocky attitudes. I'm sure not all of them are like that, but wow, was that rampant today. I have never seen anything like I've ever seen. I mean, it was like how I think the old school military must have been. Drinking. Okay, and it's like what the roll call started at 1:30. They had all this alcohol on ice and pizza, and yeah. So they were one of the things on the agenda was to give a new pilot his call sign. I've never known how pilots get their call sign. I didn't think it was like that, and maybe other pilot types do it a different way, but oh man, they did this. So this new lieutenant pilot, they were calling it a bribe. They were like, where's your bribe? And his bribe was this huge bottle of Jack Daniels. And then like there was just all this other alcohol. And so they sent him out. Well, they sent him out before they asked where his bribe is. And they went through this big whiteboard list of call signs for him to have. Now some pilots, their call signs, they're pretty clever, and some not that clever, I guess. Anyway, so when they went through this whiteboard list of call signs for this new lieutenant pilot, it was really disgusting. The lieutenant is Asian. I don't know exactly what. But they had things that on there that were extremely racist, like sushi, and then just other really offensive ones like acronyms, GMBL, SMBL, that stood for gold medal ball liquor, silver medal ball liquor. I mean, what in the world? And then one guy came up with one that was LAM, but it was really an acronym for lazy Asian millennial bit. Yeah. And there were others that were just extremely offensive. And the one that they fell on was really clever, but again, it still ended up, it was easy, but it still ended up being an acronym for just disgustingness. So they bring him in and they say, okay, here's the list of call signs. To take any of them off, you'd have to take a shot of your bribe, which his was the Jack Daniels. And so he chose one that he wanted to take off. But then what happens is anybody else in the room that's like 30 other people can also take a shot of his bribe, or take a drink of whatever bribe was brought in, to put it back on the list. So it's like, what's the point in that? There's no winning. racist, disrespectful attitudes that they had were awful. Like the guy who was, for lack of a better word, emceeing the thing. I mean, he would just tell people to shut the F up. He would be talking. And then, man, it was horrible. I don't ever want to go back to one of those again. I hope that they don't have any. We're not going to actually be on base, and hopefully we don't ever have to do any of those, because that was an absolute joke. What kind of an environment is that? Oh, what I was going to say is, one of the guys who they were commending because they had this big inspection for what he did in preparation for the inspection was really good and helpful, and kept a lot of the inspectors' questions controlled and all of that. So they're like, oh, good job. And then the guy proceeded to kind of talk about what he was doing. And these are all fighter pilots. And so he's like, yeah, I don't care, shut the F up. It's like, and then the guy was like, and his face just turned bright red. And then the guy hosting it, the MC, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I feel really bad now. Like the look in your eyes when I said that. Yeah, so just go ahead. And the guy was just like, no, just forget about it. It was just like, what is this? What is this? It was awful. And I'm at another complex to look at it, but I don't think that, like, there's a broken window of a car right outside of the lot here. Why is that person looking at me? He was supposed to be exiting and now he's like following me. I'm not parking. I'm not getting out of my freaking car because I have all my freaking gear on my car and I don't want anybody to jack it. And he was like probably looking at me so he could steal it. Got my eyes on you, dude. No, I don't think so. Man, I'm just so ready to be done with the military. Now, this kind of behavior is not anything that I've seen. I mean, I've been around aircrew. I grew up around aircrew, but I grew up around heavies. And while they can be idiots at times too, they're not as arrogant as fighter pilots. And they drink. I mean, when I first joined, there was a beer vending machine in the building. So that was interesting. And yeah, I'm just like, just the sarcasm in any organization, friend group, whatever it might be, just gets old. It gets really, really old. Like, you're not clever, you're not funny, it takes no skill to be rude and sarcastic. I have a good friend who likes to poke fun at me, but it's hilarious because it's not rude at all, but the way that he does it is so funny because it really does poke fun at just my quirks. And I told him that. I'm like, you do a really good job in being sarcastic, but you don't take it to that point of being rude. So anyway, I'm gonna pull over. I need to look to see online what these places looked like inside. I'm not really loving, I don't think I'm loving it so much, so I don't know. I think I have found the place that I'm gonna live. just wanted to look at a couple others I had on my list to make sure. So.